Hello everybody, I hope you're having a great day. I really wanted to make a YouTube video today and I thought what better time to do the BookTube Newbie tag, seeing as I am a newbie on YouTube. I think this will be my second video by the time it gets uploaded. So I thought, yeah, it'd be a nice way to sort of share more about myself, let you guys get to know me a bit, and hopefully that will let you know what you're in for if you decide to subscribe to this channel. If at any point during this video you are enjoying it, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe, it would mean a lot, and give me a comment of any book recommendations you have for me or any video ideas that you might be interested in seeing. Without further ado, let's get started. There was a couple different lists of questions that I found online, so I just found the one that interested me the most and then I added a couple of questions in at the end. So the first question is, why did I start this channel? A couple reasons really. I've always been a massive fan of YouTube. I probably watch it more than traditional television, so it's always been something I've been interested in doing. Been watching a lot of BookTube over the past few months, and it just seemed like a really fun community, a good way to get to know other people that like books. Not many people that I know in my personal life are big readers other than my wife, so it'd be a good way to sort of get to know other people and just share my love of reading with everybody. Then it is, what are some fun and unique things that you could bring to YouTube? It's a bit hard one to answer. I always find it a little bit hard to sort of gas myself up, but I do think I have some interesting video ideas that I've personally not seen before. So I'm going to be filming one later for a TBR picks video that I'm really excited about the concept of. It will involve a furry friend. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to sort of show off some of my creativity and also maybe share my opinions, which I think maybe differ to some other people that I've seen on the platform. The books that I tend to read, a lot of them are very popular books. I mean, my favourite author is Stephen King. You can't really get more, cliched than that. But that being said, I think I do branch into some territories where not a lot of people on YouTube go into. So I think I can bring sort of that. What am I most excited about being on BookTube? I think I've pretty much answered that in the past couple of questions. I'm just really looking forward to sort of getting to know new people in the community, get recommendations and sort of allow me to sort of go into, expand my comfort zone, really. There are some book genres that I've maybe been a little bit worried to sort of venture into, and I think having this channel might help me sort of broaden my horizons, read books that I would maybe not consider as much before. Then, why do I love reading? So originally I started reading when I was an adult because I have really bad insomnia, and what everybody says is, oh, you need to read a book before you go to bed, don't be on your phone. So then I tried that. It didn't actually work for curing insomnia, but I really got into reading. I really enjoyed it. I loved reading when I was a child, and then I think when I went to high school and you were forced to read annoying books, I sort of, fell out of love with it a little bit. Then I got back into it and I really enjoy it. I think what I really love about books is there's a lot of storylines and plots that can be put into a book, but not necessarily in film and TV. You see it a lot when you're watching a adaptation of a book, you're like, oh, they took out a lot of the fun stuff here, because it's just not something that can really be transferred onto screen and video. So I like that there's sort of more flexibility about what authors can write into their stories. They last a little bit long for me. A series lasts longer than a television series. There's sort of a joke that my wife and I have that whenever we're approaching the end of a TV series, I just sort of really slow down and refuse to watch the last episode because I don't want it to end. With books, because it takes longer for you to get through, I kind of like that it's more slow release of the content rather than just it be over in a couple of hours, that's you done. So next question is, what book or series got me into reading? I can't really quite remember. Obviously, when I was a child, when I first got into reading, I remember one series. It's sort of the Adrian Mole series by Sue Townsend. I remember reading that when I was about 12, 13, really enjoying that, read all of those books then. There was a series, it's not a popular series, but I found it in my school library. It's called When I Was Joe, and it's about this teenage boy who witnesses a crime and then goes into witness protection. And I remember loving those. I absolutely flew through that series, kept going back to the school library a couple of days after I got the first one, and the librarian was like, are you actually reading these? I was like, yes, they're just very good, constantly. I get really bad travel sickness, and on the bus home from school, I was still like reading chapter, then looking out the window to stop being sick, but I wanted to keep reading the book. Another one like that was The Hunger Games, really like that series. So those are sort of the ones that I remember really liking as a child. And then the book that got me back into reading the second time, like I said, I wanted to try and go to sleep a little bit easier. So I thought, okay, I'll give in and I'll start reading before bed. So I just went to a bookstore to find a book to read at night. And then I saw, oh, Stephen King. I've not read a book by him before, but everyone says he's a really good author. So I picked up The Outsider by Stephen King, which is a very, very good book. I also love this Scribner cover edition, so the American one. The UK book covers, especially for like horror and thrillers, are just a bit bland and boring. So I did manage to source the US version, which I'm really happy with. So yeah, The Outsider is a really good book by Stephen King. I wasn't expecting it. I thought it was just like a crime book because I read the back of it and I was like, oh, there's a murder. And then it went into a supernatural bit, which I wasn't expecting, but I really enjoyed. And that got me more interested in sort of the horror genre, which I hadn't really considered before. And then I really loved it. So I would recommend reading The Outsider if you've not already. It's a very good book. So then, next question is, what questions would I ask my favourite booktubers? First of all, how on earth do you afford all these books that you're buying? It's kind of a joke question, but also how? Because I see people going on these book hauls and they come back with like 100 books. And they're all in America as well. And I go to America quite often because that's where my in-laws live. You go to Barnes & Noble, it's like $25 for a paperback. How are you buying this many books? Please tell me, because I want to be living your life. And then the second one is, how do you read so quickly? Some of these people, like I know that a lot of them it's their full-time job, but I've been on like, you know, weeks off from work and I've been sitting down and like I feel like I'm reading all day, every day, and I don't get anywhere as close to reading as many books as they do. So I want to know the secrets. I want to know the gossip. I want to know how you're doing it. Please let me know. The next one is, what challenges do you think will be the hardest to overcome on YouTube? Honestly, getting used to editing videos. I'm not the most creative in that sort of way. Yeah, I'm just not. So that'll be a learning curve. Also, getting comfortable on the camera. I have a lot of like anxiety and stuff, and it's just, I don't feel that comfortable in front of a camera. So those are the ones that I'm foreseeing at the moment, is, you know, editing the videos well and just getting used to being in front of the camera, and especially if I'm wanting to film sort of book shopping vlogs, being comfortable recording in public, because at the moment if someone sees me recording in public I feel like I want to die. So hopefully I'll get around that. When did you start reading is the next question. A couple of years ago for the last time when I recently picked up reading, and then I can't even remember when I was a child. Apparently when like we went on holiday, like when I was younger, when I was like 3 or 4, I just pick up books and start looking at them. Don't know if I was actually reading them. I mean, I don't know. Can 3-year-olds read? I don't know. Maybe if they're smart. But yeah, I can't even remember. When I was a child from very young, and then I took a break until a couple of years ago, and I'm 23 now, so that gives you a little bit of an insight. Next one is, where do you read? Mostly here on the sofa or in the bedroom. Sometimes I'm trying to get better at only sleeping in the bedroom, so recently here or at my desk, because I've got a really nice fancy chair that's very comfortable and reclines all the way back. So those are the two main places. And now that summer's approaching, I would like to start reading outside and in the park on a sunny day. So what kind of books do I like reading? So there's a few genres that I really like. You might have guessed already from some of the books I talked about. Really love thrillers, I love horror, I love mystery and crime books. So any of your sort of Agatha Christie crime books, your Stephen King thriller, horror, just I really enjoy it. I find it fun. It keeps me sort of on my toes, on the edge. I like it when there's a lot of like twists and turns that you're not really expecting, but twists and turns that are also like well thought. I don't like it when you get to the end and there's a plot twist just for the sake of a plot twist because they didn't want you to guess the ending. It's like, okay, I wouldn't have guessed that because it doesn't make any sense. So I like well thought out plot twists. Part of that's probably because I have ADHD. I find it really hard to concentrate. So like books where there's not much going on, like a lot of like literary fiction novels, like I like, you know, fair enough if you like that. I don't. I just find them boring. Maybe I'll find some non-thrillery horror books that I enjoy in the future. At the moment, those are sort of the main genres that I enjoy. Science fiction I have been getting into a little bit more recently, so I've got a few science fiction books on my TBR that I'm hoping to get through over the next couple of months as well. But mainly Stephen King. I love Stephen King. When I'm doing like my April wrap up, you'll see I've been on a real Stephen King streak recently because I got into a bit of a reading slump, and no author can bring me out of a reading slump like Stephen King. So I've been reading a lot of how many times am I going to say Stephen King in this video? Should I? Stephen King, Stephen King, Stephen King. There, hopefully I'm done. I know I'm not because I'm about to talk about him right now. So these are the questions that I've added on to the end. So favourite book that I've read this year. I am going to cheat because I looked at my StoryGraph stats and I think it was 7 books that I've rated 5-star this year. Maybe I'm a little bit generous with my ratings. I don't really know how my rating system works. I just kind of go by vibes. So if I'm in a good mood that day, I'll probably rate something higher than maybe it deserves. But yeah, I don't even know my rating system. But I had 7 books that I rated 5 stars, but these are probably my favourites, but it's hard to pick. But these are the ones that I thought were a good sort of selection to sort of show you the books that I typically enjoy. So the first one was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This is part of the Hercule Poirot series. This is a really fancy Folio Society edition that has lovely like full colour illustrations. Oh, it's lovely. The paper it's beautiful, but the actual story is really, really good as well. The Poirot books, I do enjoy the series in general, but there are definitely some like hits and misses. This is a big, big hit. I think this is one of the most popular ones, and for good reason. Not really going to spoil it too much, other than obviously poor Mr. Ackroyd is no longer with us. But you probably guessed that from the title. Next one is He Who Shall Not Be Named. Billy Summers. This is such a good book. Wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. Typically some of the more like recent, more modern Stephen King books aren't as good as maybe his older stuff. This one was absolutely amazing. It's about a hitman who wants to retire, but he gets hired for that one last job. But the actual assassination is over really quickly, and then the rest of the story is just him. He meets this girl who's gone through some really bad stuff, and he ends up getting screwed over by the people that hire him, and they kind of go back to get revenge. And then weaved throughout that is sort of his story about his time in, was it Afghanistan or Iraq? I can't remember, I'm really sorry. It's a really good book. One of the only books that I've actually cried at the end. Very good. If you've not read it, I would recommend. This is the most recent 5-star book that I've read, The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. I got this in my recent book shopping vlog. So if you've not watched that already, I don't know really where it gets linked. I'll link it somewhere. Watch that if you want to. Very, very good book. I will say that the blurb doesn't really do it any justice. I hadn't heard too much about what goes on in this book, other than that it's really popular and it was made into a film that I hadn't watched at that point. It's very good. It's about this guy that basically he gets paid by an ex-acquaintance's father to go over to Italy to try and convince the son to come back to work for the family business in New York. And he goes over and he really enjoys the lifestyle over in Italy, and he'll do anything to keep it. Very, very good book. It's a short book, but it doesn't go by as quickly as you might expect it. Like, the writing's quite dense. That makes it sound bad, but it's not. It's just, I thought I would fly through this, but it took a little bit longer than I expected, but it's a very, very good book. Then the last one I want to talk about in this video for the positives is Chasing the Boogeyman by Richard Chizmar. Richard Chizmar I became acquainted with because he co-wrote a book with Stephen King that I enjoyed, and then I sort of wanted to give this a go. This is sort of one of the more like unique concepts for a novel that I've read. So it's a story about this sort of serial killer that's going around in this small town, it's complete fiction. I will say that, the actual serial killer part of it, but it's sort of combination fiction serial killer book with like, it's written from the perspective of a true crime book. So it's written from the perspective of a guy that lived in this small town at the time and investigated the murders and then found out the killer. It is completely fiction, but it's a really interesting concept. Like, there are like photos and articles and stuff in it. Like you've got like photos of the town. So it's quite interesting because sometimes you forget that it's a fiction book. But it's done really well. There was some really tense moments. I find it quite hard to actually get like genuinely creeped out with like horror thriller books. I was at multiple points during this. I got up and made sure my windows were locked. So if you've not read this, Chasing the Boogeyman, it does have a sequel, which I also enjoyed. Wasn't as strong as this one, but very good book. Then last question, on to the not so positive. It's the worst book that I've read so far this year. This, I don't know. I looked at the reviews on Goodreads and there are a lot of people that really enjoyed this book. It's called Out There Screaming. It's a collection of short horror stories sort of collected by Jordan Peele. Very good director. I really enjoy his horror films, which is why I picked this up. It was just boring. I don't have it because I got rid of it like the day I finished it. And it was a long time to finish it. I mean, it was not like a really short book, but normally like short story books I can fly through because they're normally fast paced, like you keep going boom, 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 boom. This book, I was reading it at the same time as Stephen King's It. I finished It by Stephen King in like a week. This one, like I had to keep putting down and coming back to over the course of like a month because it was just, I had no real desire to keep reading. The way it was like edited and put together was really strange because they put like all of like the more popular stories together and the worst stories, I know those are subjective, but objectively what other people are saying are the stronger stories, they bunch them all together and put the others together as well. So like there was a large part of the book that was just a slog, and then you got all the good stuff together, and it would be better if it was sort of spread out more. But yeah, I got rid of the book. I think I rated it like 1.5 stars, which I rarely do, but it wasn't for me. So that was the worst book that I read this year so far. That could change. So those are all the questions done. I hope you enjoyed getting to know a bit more about me, a bit more about my reading habits. I'd be really interested to see sort of your answers to some of the questions, especially the favourite and least favourite books that you've read so far this year. Because you know a little bit more about what I like, maybe you're in a better position to give me a recommendation for a book that you think that I'd enjoy. So please do that down in the comments. I'd be really interested. And again, if you want to see more, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.